today we decided to continue with how to master ourselves, because actually to achieve our purpose, we need to learn how to master ourselves. So we spoke a lot about our physical aspect, our psychological aspect, and our spiritual aspect. And we also addressed that if we dive deeper and in our holistical being, that we can see that we are not only this body, that of course there is much more psychological aspect, and we also address the spiritual aspect, as you all remember. But when we are speaking about this aspect, what is that we need to master? Which aspect we need to master? What is that? We are trying to master our mind. But what is, because mind will actually, when we master our mind, we can master our also physical behavior, and we can master how we act and what we do and our habits and everything else. But what is that, our mind? What would that be when we speak about mind? It defines different thinking processes through which we discipline ourselves, through which we can act upon our habits and different aspects, but it encompasses different mental aspects. So when we go from our, how do we see the world? So we see the world through our senses, isn't it? So we can perceive the world through our sight, through our taste, through our smell, through our touch. So this is how we perceive the world. So these impulses that are coming through our senses are going into our brain, which is a hardware. We were speaking about physical, psychological, and spiritual aspect. So the brain is actually the hardware. It's like a hard disk. It's like a processor that processes all these inputs that are coming from the senses. But the mind is actually the software, that part of the software that tries to distinguish what is those inputs that are coming, and trying to put the whole picture together in order to understand what are we perceiving, where are we, what is happening around us. So this is the mind. The mind is in contact with the senses and it's acting upon that. So, and the soul, if we look at the soul part, soul is perceiving the world through the mind and through the senses. So the mind reacts to different colors and produces different emotions also. So it's also about producing the emotions, because when we see some color that we like, wow, beautiful color, immediately some good emotions. Maybe if there is some color that is attached to some emotional experience, immediately maybe bad emotions will come down. So as you mentioned, the mind and the brain are two different things. One is hardware and the other is software. So what is then mind there for? So the mind, we mentioned now a few things, is therefore to think, like Zlatomir said, about perceive the situation, think about different things. We mentioned about feeling, how do we feel in this sort of certain things, and also willing, because when we see something, we immediately maybe will want to have it. I'm some pleasurable object. Great, I want that. So this is the mind which actually attracts us and which wants that object. So, and the thing is that mind always puts things in two different categories. So it's putting in the category of, like pleasure or pain, putting category of I want this, I don't want that. So it's that two extremes. So if there is some negative emotion attached to something, it will be I don't want this. If there is some positive emotion, it is about I want this. So this is also what modern psychology is trying to control. So in order to be able to control us, how to buy more things and how to act upon of this consumeristic society. So it's trying to put more and more impressions through marketing and through different medias. How can we want something that others want us to want? Yeah. And in order to understand actually what is mind, have you ever, most probably you have tried to wake up in the morning with the clock, and then the clock rings, let's say at 6 a.m. And when you hear the ringing, what's the first thought on your mind? A little later, 10 minutes later, even though maybe we would really like to get up because there is something important, but the mind says, a little more, just a little more. Or if we want to lose weight, if we would try to lose weight, if we have problems with controlling our like sense of taste and wanting to eat some food, then when we come in contact with something delicious or something sweet or something that we really like, it would be really hard to control. Mind would want that, just one last time, please, just this time, only this cake. Your mother has specifically baked it just for you, just this time, From tomorrow, we will start fasting again. And this is also usually what happens. Or maybe you had experience with trying to save some money. So then you come down and then there is 70% discount in your favorite store. And then the t-shirt, which you really liked, is there. And you see, and it's 70% discount. But even if I said that I want to save my money, that I don't want to spend now and I want to save some money, but just this t-shirt. So it goes in that direction. So this is mind, actually. The mind is there that usually distracts us and wants different things, also experiences different emotions. And yeah, so he's there, always with us. This is this small, subtle voice that is always coming with us, whatever we do. So it's a brilliant creation, and the mind can do hell out of heaven and heaven out of hell. Have you heard that already? It can really do that because the same experience, two persons can perceive totally differently. So it depends only about what are our past conditioning, what did we experience before. Like if I drive in a fast car, which is like trying to cut some edges to come faster, I'm very thrilled. But if my friend is in the same situation, he would be terrified. Oh, no, please don't drive so fast or something like that. So it's all about our past experiences and how the mind perceives things. So this is the point that if we want to control ourselves, if we want to gain control, if we want to master ourselves, we need to learn how to control our mind. This is very important. That's why I started with mind, because in order to gain control over our life, we need to master that part. But it's not so easy. You all experience that, especially if you tried meditation, because meditation is actually dealing with the mind, with wandering mind, which is going everywhere, trying to focus it and trying to restrain it in order to be able to focus it on the right things that we want in our life. I will tell you a story, one interesting story that I had in India when I was traveling. I was visiting some places, and monkeys are very interesting, especially in India. They like to steal things from people. So I was going with my glasses, just walking, not expecting anything. And one monkey just jumped and took my glasses off. Took my glasses off and started to chew on them. So monkeys are like that. They're rebellious. And they are just jumping here around, stealing things. And he was chewing on that glasses. And one local person came up to me and told me, "Here, the banana, just throw it to him." And and I just throw it to him. He jumped on the wall so that I cannot reach to him. He was looking from above, and he was looking at me smiling and chewing on my glasses. And if you are in India, like if you have glasses, it's not easy to find the new ones, especially if you're in some remote places. So I was a little bit distressed, and I took the banana and I threw it to the monkey. And monkey, what he has done, he just, because he was chewing my glasses, he put my glasses down, he dropped my glasses, and he took the banana. And he started to chew on the banana, which was more positive. And he was happy, and I was happy also. Later on, I learned that they are training those monkeys to steal people's glasses, and then the local people sell banana to the tourists so that they can get something in return. But anyway, I wanted to tell you this story because our mind is very much like a monkey. He's very much like a monkey, and he's always engaged in something. It's very hard to disengage mind and just to make it blank, especially in today's society. In today's society, I heard from one person that I know that if he doesn't have phone in his hand, like for 10, 15 minutes, that he becomes distressful. Can you imagine that? One person that I know from London. London is like a little bit more advanced than Croatia in that terms, because people are even more rushed and even more anxious in different areas because everything is much more fast than here. But still, can you imagine that? And this is happening today. Like I see people in the trains, I see people in the buses, I see people in the restaurants just scrolling on their phone because their attention, their mind needs to be always absorbed in something. And this is becoming very big problem today. We are not used to keep our mind just still. Even though if we don't engage it in mobile, maybe it will just relax or just watch some nature or something like that. But still, we are not habituated to do that. We either need to watch television, mobiles, talk to somebody, do something, because our mind is becoming more wild and wild, like monkeys today in India, because they are disturbed with so many tourists, disturbed with so many cars, disturbed with so many things, so they don't have their natural habitants, like their nature that where they are alone, but they are disturbed with so many different things, so they are also making a lot of disturbance. So this is also happening to our mind. But now we will not try to put ourselves in ideal situation, trying to reprogram ourselves immediately. But what can we do instantly? If our mind is habituated to do things like that, we can throw him a banana, not to chew on the glasses. If the mind wants to chew on social media, if mind wants to chew on something that is not good for us, we can give him a banana. Banana is something that we want, that it's positive, some good habit. We can try to open something that is good for us. Watch something that is good for us, that we choose, not just scrolling on Facebook Watch or TikTok or whatever. Just that random things are happening and who knows what, because all of these things are coming down in our subconsciousness. So we are just putting a lot of trash in our mind. But we can then focus it. We can focus it and we can then try to listen. You know what I discovered is Google, just wait a second, it's Google Podcasts. Yeah. You know why it's great? Because you just get things what you want. It's only there. It's not like randomly selected things that just jump in your things. And if you find good podcasts, it's like really great. This is something that I discovered. And you can just turn on the lecture, inspiration, or something that is really constructive. And there is no ads, which is really great. So something like that, and to focus our mind, to bring it back, to try to put it under control, because to make it silent, it's very hard. It's very, very hard to make it silent and to make it, even though spiritual practice and meditation is there to bring our mind under control, to put that level of passion down, and to put it more under control, to be able to willingly focus it on proper things and to put ourselves more in the mode of goodness. What do you think absorbs our mind in fullness? Something that we spoke last time. It will be a hint. What absorbs our mind in fullness? We spoke last time about love. Have you ever been in love? Did you need to try or endeavor to think about that person? No, I don't think so. It was instant attraction. It was instant attraction to the person we love. It's there. We forget about our duties, especially in college. If there is some exams or something, you're like, oh no, the person I fell in love with, that's the only person in our life. So love absorbs our mind in fullness. It's really interesting. Love is very powerful. So when we learn to love, not this last time spoke about the difference between lust and love, but when we really learn to love, then we can really absorb our mind. This is one thing aside of that. Actually, I wanted to share one interesting verse from Vedic scriptures, and I will just, here it is. You see it?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is one verse from Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is actually one ancient text coming from Vedic literature. I mentioned it before, this Vedic literature, and this is Sanskrit, is very ancient language. This is transliteration, which is actually all these verses are being sang. So you sing it. I can even show you how. And then you have a translation of every word, and this is the translation of that verse. So I learned a little bit of this Sanskrit because I was really into it, into these ancient cultures. So I can show you how it's sang actually. Bandhuratmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jita anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. And this is actually translation. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So the point is, this is actually yoga texts that are coming from that yoga tradition. And yoga is actually there to gain control and conquer our mind. Because if our mind is not conquered, we are always under his influence. And our mind, if we are under his influence, he's just driving us wherever he wants. So if we don't conquer him, he will be our enemy because he will be distracting us from the things that we really want. I remember when I was in primary school and secondary school, until I learned the yogic techniques of conquering the mind, I was putting more effort to learn, trying to concentrate, to start learning, than in learning itself. Did you have that experience? You have the book, you are reading the book, and the book is reading you also. There is no connection because, focus is not present. Mind is somewhere else, or is distracted or whatever. But when we learn how to conquer our mind, we can really achieve what we really want. And interestingly enough, when I learned yoga techniques, because I was doing yoga like 15 years ago, I was studying for 48 hours in a row. And I would finish the exams, 3 exams. I was studying whole day. I would have the exam in the evening. Then I was studying the whole night. I would have the exam in the morning, and then the whole day, and I would have the exam in the evening. I was doing that in a public library, which works from 0 to 24, and I was a student. It was an interesting experience because I was in that part of my life, I was living in a monastery and I was finishing my college. Really crazy, but I didn't have time to study for my college, so I was finishing my exams in that way. But interesting enough, when you learn how to master your mind, you can learn in a row. Actually, I was learning for 2 hours, and then I was resting for 15 minutes. I was doing yoga nidra. This is like a very, it's in a modern, in medicine, it's called, what is the name? I forgot about it. But it's actually relaxing all your body and mental system. You are not sleeping, but you are just relaxing. This is something that Nikola Tesla was also doing, and Einstein, they were like relaxing for 15 minutes. And then your mind is fully focused again, and you can just study and learn. And it was just going in. It was going in, and it was amazing. So we are very powerful. We can do amazing things if we learn how to conquer our mind. So before, when I was teaching yoga, interestingly enough, during the college, I was also a yoga teacher. And while I was, so I was telling people, like people will tell me, like I don't have time to exercise or to do yoga. And I would tell them, no. If you put yoga in your schedule, you will have double more time for everything else. Because when you focus yourself, I'm not now just promoting yoga, but any conquering of the mind technique. If you learn how to conquer your mind, you can have much more time because you will be much more productive. So this is very, very special. So that's why I showed you that verse, because if we learn how to conquer our mind, we can do amazing things in our life. And then our mind can be our friend. You know why it will be friend? Because it will start desiring and willing things which we want, which are good for us. It will not distract us with bad habits. It will not distract us with, something that is not good for us, that we don't want to, just because he is habituated. He will want something that we desire and that's good for us. And that's the power of habits. Habits can be good and can be bad. Habits in general are good because we don't need to think about everything separately. We are just habituated. But if we have bad habits, then we do habitually just bad things. We smoke, we wake up late, we eat unhealthy. But if we have good habits that we eat healthy, before 10 years ago, when I was 15 years and 10 years ago, when I was practicing yoga intensely, I could not live without exercising yoga at least 1 hour a day. It was just such a strong habit. I could not function without it. Now I'm not exercising anymore 1 hour a day, but I'm meditating 2 hours a day. And if I don't meditate for 2 hours a day, it's just, something's wrong. I don't have that focus. I don't have that power, I don't have that concentration to deal with the things in my life. I feel that. And even though I separate 2 hours in my day, I can do so many different things. For those ones who know me and what I'm doing, running different organizations and running different projects, they know how big scope of work. And still, I separate these 2 hours because I'm habituated to it, because I know how good it is. So it's really interesting. Okay. And you know what? This is interesting. If you put your mind without control, if you just leave it, you know what will happen? Mind will go on our habituated place. Is it scrolling? Is it maybe some habit? Is it something like that? He will just go and chew whatever he's used to chewing, glasses or whatever. So the point of relaxing, we can relax also, but constructively, putting ourselves in situation. Maybe if we are in a situation that we cannot read, that we cannot focus ourselves, maybe we can do some relaxation with the nature, or watch something that is constructive, something that will make some positive impact. So give him a banana. We don't need to learn him to eat, some healthy cookies if he doesn't want to in that moment. So we give him something, but positively. So thank you very much, Martin, for sharing that. Okay. I will share you now also one interesting thing with which you will be able to understand how our psychology is being interpreted. This is a Vedic model which explains from yogic tradition how our consciousness functions. So you can see these 5 horses. You can see that they have symbols on them. So these 5 horses are our 5 senses. So this is a comparison. So we have our sight, smell, I think this is hearing, touching, and tasting. So this is the senses, which are like horses. They pull us. I want to taste this. I want to touch this. I want to see that. So all of these horses are pulling us. And the mind is being compared to this, come on, what is the name of?
The reins.
Reins, thank you, Martin. I'm sorry, I could not remember the word. So the reins are compared to the mind. And the person who is in charge of the reins is compared to intelligence, our rational part. So intelligence is actually that one who is trying to control the reins or the mind, which are controlling the senses. Because if we don't have our mind under control, then our senses will drag us everywhere and may drag us over a cliff, and we may end up hurting ourselves or whatever, because they are just dragging us. And mind may be, oh, look at this, look at that, and then we may do some horrible thing, and just suffer afterwards. So the point of controlling the mind is strengthening our intelligence so that she can really control our mind. So the intelligence is there to distinguish what is good and what is bad for us. Because the intelligence is that voice which tells us we need to wake up early in order to achieve something. And the mind is that which is telling, oh, no, please a little more. And then it tells, no, please, we need to wake up. No, a little more. Or we want to, if we have diabetes, so, we want to, cut on sugar or something like that. So our intelligence is telling us, you are going to have very bad consequences if you don't cut on sugar. I want to stop eating sugar. But our mind, no, please, just this sweet. This is my favorite one. I got it now for a present, And then intelligence, no, we need to cut. And there is always this fight between intelligence and the mind. So this fight between intelligence and mind depends how intelligence is strong. Is it strong enough? So training our intelligence is also being trained by knowledge, by understanding, and by, all this discipline that we spoke about, meditation, austerities and different things. We can train our intelligence, but especially with knowledge, with understanding what is good, why is it good. If we have good enough conviction, and if our intelligence is strong, then we can conquer our mind. So this is an important part. So and the intelligence actually is choosing what the mind should do if it's strong enough. I will tell you one more comparison. Have you ever heard about 2 hungry wolves? I was speaking about dogs, but then they told me it's wolves. You heard about that comparison?
Yes.
That each one of us has 2, I will say again, dogs, because I'm used to that, in ourselves. So we have a good dog and a bad dog. And bad dog is full of, lust, selfishness, immorality, and all of these things. And it's trying to pull us in that direction, to act angrily, enviously. And the good dog is full of, good qualities. like wisdom, like unselfishness, and all of this other love. And we have always that fight in ourselves. What to do? Why is it compared? Because these dogs, you know which one is stronger in us. What determines which dog will be stronger? So the one that we feed with our willpower, that dog will be stronger. So this is the point of habits. This is the point of habituation. So because if we feed the good dog, if we learn to, read books, and that we get used to and like reading books, and we don't feed the dog of scrolling, or we don't feed the dog of eating unhealthy food, that we eat good and healthy food, that dog will be stronger. So the good dog will be stronger. If we learn to look for the positive things in others and not for the bad things in others, then we will habituate ourselves in such way, and then we will immediately start looking for good habits in that person. So this is really important, that we see which dog we are feeding. The most harder to make a decision in our life, it's because we have been doing some opposite things to it. So if we haven't trained sports, like I will do my example of yoga. Now, because I stopped doing so frequently physical yoga exercises, to continue again to do physical yoga exercises, it's not so easy because I'm not habituated so much that it's like a habit. I need to force myself a little bit to find time to do that. Before it was different because I was just immediately, when I woke up in the morning without doing physical yoga, I could not start my day. Now it's meditation or something else. But the point is that, how much some things are we doing? That's how much it will be easy or not. So if we are used to doing some bad things for us, it will be much harder to do something good. If we are used to smoking, it will not be so easy to stop smoking. Of course, there is this nicotine and other things, but whatever we try to do. So this is very important aspect. So that's why yoga is there. That's why I put you that verse, in order to learn how to control, how to drive and focus our mind in positive things, how to develop positive habits, and little by little conquer our mind and master ourselves. And I will now come to the intelligence part. If there is no questions now, Mehmed joined us. Welcome, Mehmed. Dropped by. So we are in the middle of discussion. We will now speak about the intelligence part. So there is 4 different intelligence, 4 different kinds of intelligence. It's very interesting because each one of us is in some of those categories. So the first category of intelligence is when we read or hear something that's not good for us, let's say not good for us, we are going to follow it. Like when we hear, putting your hand in the fire will hurt your hand because fire is hot and it will burn your hand. And we understand that knowledge, we are not going to do that. That this is the first class intelligence. The second class intelligence is we learn that, putting hand in fire is not good. And then still we put our hand, we don't put, we see somebody else who put his hand in the fire. And then we see, okay, I will not do that. It's not good because he burned himself. So the second class is that we don't believe, from the, knowledge, that we only believe when we see that somebody has done that. The third class is that we don't believe when we hear about it. We even don't believe when we see somebody. We think, okay, it will not happen to me. That person, he's a weakling, he burned himself. I'm much stronger, I didn't burn myself when I put my hand in the water, whatever, our mind concludes. And then we put our hand in the fire and we burn ourselves. And then we say, oops, I made a mistake. I will not put anymore my hand in the fire. So this is the third class intelligence. And you know what is the fourth one?
When you do it and still don't believe it?
When we get the experience and we think next time it will be different. We put the hand in the fire, we heard about it, we saw others being burned, we put the hand in the fire, we are burned, but we think, no, next time it will be different. So this is usually what happens to many of us. We don't learn, even from that somebody explains to us, even when we see others having problems with it, even when we experience it, but we need to be hit again and again. And that's why bad things are happening to us, because we don't learn from the first situation. We don't learn from the first situation. So this is a little bit by intelligence. So the point is that we try to learn from knowledge and from experience of others, that we don't just try to walk in the room and try to hit the wall with our head and thinking that something will be different if we hit again. So this is really important. That's why knowledge is very important for the intelligence. If we feed our intelligence with knowledge, and if we really understand why some things are not good for us, and we are convinced, it will be much easier to change our habits and change our mind and to gain mastery over ourselves. So this is really important part.
Yeah.
And somebody is trying to say something, or no? Okay, Katia also joined, and there was one last aspect. Somebody mentioned, I think Zlatomira mentioned about the ego part. So the ego is also there. He's also in the equation. Our ego is our identification of ourselves. It's how do we identify ourselves? What do we identify ourselves with? So this whole identification, we are white, like we are man, we are female, we are, like I'm president of OASA, or I am good in sport, or I am better than somebody. All these identifications that we are putting to ourselves, or I'm this body, all of these identifications are part of our ego. And our ego is the most subtle element of our psychological structure that we just presented. And he's identifying ourselves with this body and with this, experience of ourselves. And ego is very, very powerful. And he's the reason why we forget who we really are, why we forget about that spiritual aspect, why we forget about also these psychological aspects and all of these things. It's because of ego. And the ego is following us from the beginning of our journey in this body. And he's becoming more thicker and thicker with identifying ourselves. Who are we? What did our background? Our, what did we finish in school and this and that. So he covers us to really forget who we really are, and he identifies ourselves with this, just short identity in this life. So we are just identifying ourselves, and it's identifying actually I'm this body, that we are this body, and that everything that belongs to this body is mine. So he's identifying us in that way. So I am Filip, and I am whatever, running OASA, and everything that's connected to OASA is mine. So this is ego. And it's not like that. I am just, like a person who is here to serve and to contribute to the world. And I came in that position and I'm running it and I'm trying to do it the best way. So we need to understand that ego, and we need to really change it. This is also one of the interesting points that we need to work on ourselves. But in order to come to that point, we first need to control our mind, strengthen our intelligence, and then be able to change this misidentification of our ego. because this ego actually is making a lot of harm, not only to us, but also to others, if we don't know how to properly identify ourselves and who we really are.